Good morning, Hamilton. Happy Friday, November 20th, 2020. 11/20,
Yay!
2020. We made it through a full week of online learning, Mrs. Cashman. We came out at the other end and we are better because of it. I feel like I had a good week. Did you have a good week?
I really thought, and I feel like every day, Zoom got a little better and better, and we're getting used to our new routine. So, and I'm especially proud of these kids for the way that they kind of have rolled with it and just really done their best for us.
I mean, we're learning as best we can in a unique way. And I taught, Mrs. Cashman taught, your teachers taught this week, and I think you learned. I hope you learned.
Yeah. We know they learned. Come on, Mr.
Yeah.
Slusser. We know they learned.
I know. And it's funny because I think about like when we were kids, gosh, and this would have never happened when we were kids. Like there's not even.
No.
It's so cool kind of to think like the different opportunities that you have because you're growing up during this time.
And isn't it funny that, well, not funny, like he, but it is maybe like a silver lining that this kind of thing happened during a time when we have the technology that we have so that they can keep learning and we can keep seeing them and being with them and being their teachers. So,
and believe it or not, your teachers have learned a lot too on how to use this technology. So we are learning right along with you. So it is a kind of an interesting time. We will be very grateful and show a lot of gratitude for the weekend and our Thanksgiving recess next week. But I think at the end of the day, we do feel pretty good about this week.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome.
So update you. Oh, I have to tell you, word of the week, famished. So one of my writing assignments this week in my class was to talk about the food that they like to eat at this time of year. Thinking about Thanksgiving or just like food in general. Around fall, food is so good. And Sophia Iannuzzi in my class used the word famish in her 4-paragraph writing, Mrs. Cashman.
4 paragraphs? Great job, Sophia. Wow.
And she used the word famish correctly, just like Maddie Putt did in 5th grade. So,
and you know what, Mr. Slusser? Isn't it the truth that when you start to use it, like even if you use a word in speaking, that's one thing. But when you transfer over to use it in your writing, that means that you really, really, truly understand it and know how to use it. So that's pretty spectacular.
I just have to say, it's nice to know that there's people listening to us as we do this Cougar Vision from our households in our virtual studios. But famished, I actually might do famished next week too, just because it's the Thanksgiving recess coming up.
The prep.
Famished means you are really hungry. I actually told my wife this morning that I was very famished because I don't know why. Maybe just being home makes you more hungry. I don't know.
I know. Well, and Mr. Slusser goes running too, so that's always something that's going to make you feel famished. A good exercise.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
All right. Well,
Go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
sometimes
I was just going to say I ran by the YMCA this morning. And the new YMCA is ready. The expansion is open. The new expansion is open.
Wow. No kidding. I'll have to go check that out. I haven't seen it. I'll have to drive by. All right, kiddos. Well, we wanted to go ahead and announce these kiddos that the rest of our kids that are having birthdays over this break. And you know what? I guess we better check for a minute as we're announcing this. So as we're doing it, I could do 2 things at once. Let's see. I want to make sure, Hamilton, that I'm not sure I checked to make sure there weren't any birthdays today, Mr. Slusser. But as I'm doing that, I would like to wish a very happy birthday to DeLove from Mr. Yazinski's class. His birthday is on the 24th.
And I will give a shout out to Miss Emma, who is in 5th grade, Miss Musser's homeroom class. She has a birthday also on the 24th.
Awesome. And happy birthday to Michael Schultz in Mrs. Mogill's 4th grade. And his birthday's on the 25th.
And to Nelody, she is in Miss Kolstock's kindergarten class. Her birthday is on the 27th.
Very good. And last but definitely not least, celebrating a birthday today on November 20th is Brielle in Miss Clash's kindergarten. So happy birthday today, Brielle.
Happy birthday.
All right. Yesterday, we talked about an athlete and someone who is famous for his time in Carlisle, but that was from Oklahoma. And Mr. Slusser, you know who that was, right? Who was that guy again?
I think his name was Jim Thorpe.
Ooh, good job, Mr. Slusser. So we're going to
Thanks.
take a look now. Yesterday, we had talked a little bit, and we had shared some facts about him. And today, we're going to look at some more of those facts. So let's go ahead. I'm going to share this with you today. And if you guys remember, here is what we had looked at. And we had heard that he is very good at not just one sport, but lots of different sports. And we had also heard that he was in the Olympics in Stockholm, Sweden, and what an amazing job he did. So let's hear the next fact today. It says, unfortunately for Thorpe, in the summers before he participated in the Olympics, he was paid to play baseball. Many amateur athletes, oh, that's a good word too, amateur.
That is a good
and
one.
Every grade at Hamilton. That means that you are not what they call a professional. So if you're an amateur, you're not getting paid to do something. But if you are a professional, then you get paid to do that. It says many amateur athletes, well, amateurs could be paid too. You're just not a professional. Mrs. Cashman.
Most amateurs are not paid though.
Yes, I'm derailing. I apologize. Okay. Many amateur athletes were paid, but most used fake names to get around the rules because you weren't allowed to be paid if you were in the Olympics. Thorpe used his real name. He was paid very little, just $2 a game. However, Olympic rules stated that an athlete who was paid was not an amateur, and amateurs were not permitted to compete in the games. In 1912, a reporter discovered that Thorpe had been paid to play baseball. Thorpe claimed he had not known of the rules, which might explain why he, unlike other athletes, had used his real name. He said, I hope I will be partly excused by the fact that I was simply an Indian schoolboy and did not know all about such things. I was not very wise in the ways of the world and did not realize this was wrong. In early 1913, Thorpe's Olympic medals were taken from him. So, you know, I find that here it's also a sad thing about history that maybe they didn't teach people everything that they should have known or make sure that Olympians knew the rules like they might know today. So this is very unfortunate for him.
It's kind of hard I was going to say, it's kind of hard to think that, you know, the United States helped to make Jim Thorpe such an amazing athlete and taught him some things that he needed to know to go to the Olympics, and then took away his Olympic medals from him just because he broke a very simple rule.
Right, and didn't quite teach him what the rule was beforehand. Thorpe eventually signed with the New York Giants and eventually played with the Cincinnati Reds and Boston Braves. He also played football for the NFL and served as the first president of the American Professional Football Association. After leaving sports, Thorpe held a variety of jobs, including working as an extra in Hollywood films. He often struggled to earn enough money to provide for his family. In 1982, the International Olympic Committee restored Thorpe's gold medals, roughly 30 years after his death.
Wow.
So I do
at least
feel
they did
that,
the right thing then.
Yes, I was just going to say, even though he didn't get to see it, I'm sure that maybe some of his family members got to see that and that they did the right thing even though he wasn't there. So that is a good part to see. And there are some facts about him. It says a town in Pennsylvania changed its name to Jim Thorpe. That's not too terribly far from us. Burt Lancaster portrayed Thorpe in a movie, Jim Thorpe, All-American. And Thorpe was buried in Pennsylvania, but his grave included mounds of soil from Oklahoma, as well as the Olympic Stadium in Stockholm, Sweden.
Yeah, a lot of the Native Americans, including Jim Thorpe, who went to the Indian school, have a lot of their ancestors and even their current relatives are struggling to understand why they went to the Indian school, number one, why they were sent to the Indian school, and then if they were buried in the Indian school, do they belong there? Does does Carlisle and the U.S. government kind of own them, or does their Native American tribe, wherever they came from, do they own them? And it's interesting because we talk about this being history, but it's really not so much history. In fact, the Native American graveyard right outside of the War College just a couple years ago was in the news because one of the Native American tribes said that they didn't want their ancestors to be buried in that cemetery, so they actually dug up the remains and moved it back to their tribe out west. So
I think what it comes down to, right, Mr. Slusser, is that we learn from history, and sometimes even years and years and years and years later, you can still do the right thing for people, even if maybe something not so nice happened to them before.
Yep. So, once you learn, you got to make it right.
That's right. That's right. And we have to learn and move forward. And again, remember that the most important thing is that we respect cultures and other individuals who are different from us. And we try to learn about their culture and ask them about it and ask them to teach us about it if it's different from ours. And we can all learn something from each other. Pretty important and special.
Right. Just because we don't necessarily understand each other doesn't mean that either one of us are wrong. We just have to work a little harder. We just have to work a little harder to understand and communicate with one another.
And show gratitude for those around us in this month of February. What is wrong with me today? November. Woo. What am I don't know, guys. I am a little worn out at the end of this week. I'm not going to lie. So we better wrap this up right there before Mrs. Gashman starts talking about anything at February or what else. So kiddos, have a fantastic Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. And we will see you back here in our virtual studios on Monday.
Bye-bye, Hamilton.